to me a little bit about your shooting evolution when you first came to Europe from college, because you have an interesting perspective also. College, Europe, NBA, you play some G League as well, and you come national team, NBL, so you have different perspectives in terms of development, in terms of just basketball education. But how did your shooting come along, and when do you feel like it was like ready to take off, took the next step?
Yeah, I guess I've always been someone who worked on my shot, ever since the first practice I had with Aaron Fern. He had me shooting mid-range jumpers, and I'd always get reps in doing mid-ranges. And then I went to the Institute of Sport, and Marty Clark, he always had me shooting hook shots and then jumpers, and some threes mixed in just to um, fill up the rest of the shots that I had to make every single day. And then when I got to college, it was, I was didn't really leave the paint in college, but I still got my shots in throughout practice every week. And after college, I remember I was doing the pre-draft workouts with Phil Handy, and after the first session, he just wanted to see how we shot, and I was shooting the ball, and he's like, "Why the hell can you shoot the ball? Like, you've never shot it in college. Why didn't you shoot that in college?" And then he's just like, "You got to work on your shot because no one knows that you can shoot the ball. What do you mean doing?" And so then I just kept working on my shot with him. And when I got to the pre-draft workouts, I was shooting threes and making enough that I wasn't laughed at, or just people wrote it off completely. And so then I ended up going to Lithuania, and that was when I went from just trying to make 10 shots to you had to make 9 of 10 or better. And so from that point onwards, I always focused on trying to give myself a number and beat that number. And I wouldn't leave the gym until I'd hit it at whatever number I needed out of 10 or out of 20 or whatever it was at each spot around the court. And from that point onwards, it was always something that, yeah, I kept trying to improve every year and minimize how many misses I was allowed from each spot. And then in Detroit, I guess San Antonio, I had Chip England and um, Chad Forcier, who were our guys there, the shooting coaches, and they were, myself and Chip worked. I worked with Chip more than anyone, and he was always so positive and kept telling you, you're not shooting the ball in the game, but it doesn't matter. You've got to shoot them here and prove to the coaches that you can make them. So he was always a good influence on me for my shot. In the 3 years I was there at San Antonio, then I went to Detroit, and Stan, I remember working out with Stan the first day I had there, and he got through his entire workout that he wanted with me, and then he looked at me and he's like, all right, you can go home now. And I was like, all right, you're done? And he's like, yeah. And so I started shooting threes. He's like, why the fuck are you shooting threes? You're not going to shoot threes for me. And I was like, it doesn't matter if they're not for you. I got a national team in the off season. And so he just laughed and he walked away. And then it just became this thing where at the end of every session, I was like, Stan, you done for the day? Like, we good? And he's like, yeah, shoot your fucking threes then. And so then I'd stand out, I'd get all my threes up. And he just kept shaking his head every single time I'd do it. He's like, you're just wasting your time. But I guess, it wasn't too much of a waste, because then that was about the same time that Steph started doing Steph things in the league. And, he really started changing the game. I'd seen it in San Antonio, and that was when, he was just completely off going, and everyone wanted to be Steph from that point onwards. And I figured if everyone else wants to be Steph, I might as well try and do my best as well. So I just kept at it. And then when I got to the Australian team in the summer times, that was when I was allowed to shoot the ball, and everyone on the team knew I could shoot. And it was just that step that I needed in the NBA was when I got to Boston, and Brad and Danny were both watching me shoot, and they're like, you can actually shoot the three. Like, you need to shoot the three for us. And then it was midway through the season there, and I was shooting after practice, and Brad's like, you need to shoot that three for us or you're hurting us. And he's like, I need you to stretch the floor for us. So I'd shoot them, and like in the game, I shot one or two, and he's like, no, I need you to shoot the ball when you catch it, not pass it. And so then one of the next practices, I was shooting after it, and Danny came down, and he's like, come over here. And I walked over to Danny, and as he did, he's like, what's that line? I was like, the 3-point line. He's like, what's it for? I'm like, shoot threes behind. I'm like, you get 3 points. He's like, well, fucking use it then. And it was kind of at that point, I was like, all right. Like, coach has told me, Danny's told me, he's not going to keep telling me Otherwise, they're going to find someone else who's going to use it. And at that point, that was when I just started shooting him in the game every time I caught it, and that was what they wanted. And I started making more than I missed, and yeah, it was a good thing, and I enjoyed it. And just having that confidence from everyone around me and on the team, they knew what I could do in practice, and they saw me working it. So it was just consistent effort for a lot of years, and I kind of thought I had to earn everyone's respect, so that's what I did within that. And yeah, once I felt I'd earned it, and there was no stopping me. I didn't see a three that I didn't like. So it was kind of having to pull my reins back a little bit, like, okay, like we'll take that, but we could also get a different shot. So but that was where I was also started watching a lot more film in Boston and could understand what a good shot was and what a bad shot was. And more often than not, I'm going to shoot it every single time if I know it's going to be in film as a good shot. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Nah, that's I'm looking at the stats here a little bit, and we're gonna go into it. But I see that in Detroit the first year we're 0 for 2. Then in Detroit the second year, nothing, no 3-point attempt.
nothing.
And then it went up to for like 14 for 44 at Boston the first year, then 34%, 35% in Phoenix, and then it tapered down in Toronto. But it was like in Boston, it was like where it took off. I'm gonna share